Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And the Phils found a much needed win with some really encouraging signs. We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the last 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to this in podcast form. If you're checking us out on the YouTube and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, well, when you hit that subscribe button, which is free and easy to do, you'll get notifications when new episodes are posted, so you never miss a bit of Philadelphia Phillies information. So I appreciate everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So go ahead and check out our friends over at Game Time. The Phils found a big win last night. They needed that to kind of steady the ship. Now, we're going to talk about some even more positive takeaways because it wasn't just a win where, Bryce Harper hit 5 home runs and Zach Wheeler pitched and struck out like 40 guys. No, they got some contributions from other guys that have been struggling. So it was good to see. We're going to talk about all of that. I also had the opportunity to have a conversation this morning on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio with Tim Kurkjian. And Kurkjian, of course, is one of the most knowledgeable baseball minds on this planet. He said some very, very interesting things about the Philadelphia Phillies that this fan base really needs to hear. And I will share those with you and some takeaways from some other stuff that he said. And we'll take a look at game 3 of the 4-game set against the Giants later on, where the Phils look to build a little momentum, guarantee a series split, and try and make sure that this was not just a blip on the radar. Real quick, a couple of housekeeping things, because we've been getting some comments on the YouTube. One, about the light over my shoulder here if you're watching on the YouTube. I know it can be a little bit distracting. Working on getting curtains to block that out. So I know a couple people have asked if I could do that. I've already ordered them, so they should be up either tomorrow or the next day. And someone was asking about this Fanatic picture, wrong shoulder, that I have behind me over here if you're watching on the YouTube, of him smoking a cigar with the World Series trophy on his belly. That's by Foster Philly Art. Did a great job putting that together if you want to go ahead and check out some of Foster Philly Art's work. But anyway, back to the podcast there now that the housekeeping is done. Phils found a win last night, a 6-4 victory over the Giants. And it was sketchy at points, especially when Jose Alvarado puts runners on and then gives up a run in the 3-run game and has no outs. He worked out of it, so that was good to see. It was actually a really, really nice bounce back by him later on in the inning. I mean, the Giants tied the game up after the Phils led it 2-0. There were back and forth moments in this game, but ultimately the Phillies were the better team in this one, and they made a lot of hard contact. Jesus Luzardo didn't have his best strikeout stuff, but he still gave you a really darn good performance on the mound, which is what we've come to expect from him in his short time here in Philadelphia. So, everything's good, right? Well, it is if they build on it, and one day does not pull you out of a slump. Teams getting out of slumps have to consistently play better than what they've been playing like. And there were some signs that the Philadelphia Phillies are right on the edge of doing that. The first couple of things that I really, really liked from the game, obviously JT Realmuto hitting a wild home run. It was windy as anything at Citizens Bank Park last night. It affected a couple of fly balls. It certainly affected a ball that Trey Turner hit that looked like it was a home run off the bat. Did not get out of the yard because of the wind. JT muscles went out to left field. That was awesome. Bryce Harper kind of did the opposite and caught the wind tunnel to right field on a really high fly ball that ended up getting out. Great. You expect it from those guys, right? They've been pretty good to start the year. Harper's always good. Turner is giving you, Realmuto is giving you, because we're going to talk about Trey in a second. But Realmuto is giving you some really good at-bats right now at the plate, which is nice to see from him because he started the season off cold. But you expect JT to be this veteran player. You know what Realmuto is, right? He may not be the 2019, 2020 JT Realmuto anymore, but he is still a very good baseball player. But the two guys that have been struggling mightily. Brandon Marsh, shockingly, back in the lineup yesterday after the Phillies said they were going to give him multiple days off. And part of that was, well, Rojas went 0 for 3 with very little contact made and in big spots, making big outs that can't happen. Not that Marsh has been good in those spots, but I guess the Phillies felt that they wanted to flip it over with righty Justin Verlander on the mound. Marsh had a nice RBI sac fly early on in the game, which was good to see. He barreled a couple baseballs, had another one to center field later on in the game that was hit well, that was corralled by Lee out there in center. But still, like, he was not making much contact. And to see that, okay, that feels pretty good. We'll see if he builds on that. I'm not saying Brandon Marsh is back to being the everyday center fielder. I'm not saying he's fixed. I'm not saying he's going to have a great year. I'm just saying that the hard contact is a positive step for a guy that's been majorly struggling. Speaking of hard contact, Bohm has been showing even more of that lately, and he had a nice RBI single to put the Philadelphia Phillies ahead in the 6th inning, put them up 4-3. So that was really, really nice to see. He had some good contact in the game. Alec Bohm did. So Alec Bohm, Brandon Marsh, both have RBIs. And something that was really, really cool from you, if you were at the game last night, the Philadelphia Phillies fans, big time applauses for Brandon Marsh and for Alec Bohm, right? I know we like to complain about these guys, and we should. If they're not playing well, criticism is warranted of guys like Marsh and Bohm that are going to have to be pieces of this team. For the time being, for Marsh, for the year, for Bohm. And the reason I say for the time being for Marsh is we'll see when Justin Crawford comes up. We'll see what the deadline has, but that's a long way away. We support our own here in Philadelphia when you play well. When you don't play well, we let you know. So that's just the reality of playing in this city. I like the fans' reaction to those performances by those guys last night. Even though neither of them had like monster breakout games, you saw better stuff out of them. And that's what you got to do, right? When you're slumping, you don't just go, I'm going to go 5 for 5 today with 5 bombs. No, you go, let me just get an RBI. Let me put together a good at bat. Let me barrel a baseball. Don't worry about the result. Focus on the process. And Alec Bohm and Brandon Marsh's processes last night were significantly better than they have been in previous opportunities. That's a good step. The bullpen has settled a little bit. I know Alvarado had a sketchy inning, but you saw some good stuff out of the bullpen when they relieved Jesus Luzardo, and I think ultimately the bullpen's going to be fine. I don't think they're last year's bullpen where they were really, really good over the entirety of the regular season, but I do think that they're going to be serviceable. And that's another spot where when you're a contending team at the deadline, your front office is always going to look to add a bullpen arm. Like every front office that has a playoff team is going to look to add. And the Phillies have done that the past couple of years. So it was a really nice bounce back effort by the Philadelphia Phillies with some big time upside. When I said earlier we were going to talk about Trey Turner, another encouraging sign. I haven't mentioned this, I don't think, on the podcast yet this year. But Trey Turner's defense has looked really, really solid. He made an awesome play last night, an over-the-shoulder basket, Willie Mays style catch that Max Kepler was not going to get to in left field. He goes out and kind of nonchalantly makes it look easier than it actually was. Turner's defense has been pretty darn good this year. I don't know how long it keeps up for. I'm not expecting him to not make an error for the rest of the season or anything. It happens, but people have criticized Trey's defense in his time here in Philadelphia, and that looked good again last night. So there were some really, really good things you saw from the Philadelphia Phillies that remind you, hey, this is still a really good ball club. They've just got to play consistently to this level, or rather, even how they played last night, the Phillies have another 2 or 3 gears on top of that game. But they found a win against a good team in the San Francisco Giants, and now they open up the opportunity for them to guarantee a split of the series if they can win tonight in a matchup between Robbie Ray and Aaron Nola that we're going to talk about later. But it doesn't have to be the most remarkable game. It doesn't have to be the most remarkable performance for a slumping team or a slumping player. All that matters is when everything's said and done, end of the day, you score more runs than your opponent. And that's what the Philadelphia Phillies did last night. They made a lot of hard contact. Like even some of the outs that they were making, they were hitting the ball pretty hard. And that's a good sign. We will see if that continues in game 3 of the series. I'm not ready to say, well, they're out of the slide. They're totally fine. No, you got to figure out what's going on. Lefty on the mound tonight. Does Brandon Marsh play? How does the lineup get constructed? Does Bryson Stott get a day? If he does, well, does that bother his confidence because he's been hitting leadoff? Like, these are all questions that we will explore more when we get into the preview of Game 3 tonight. But I really liked what the Philadelphia Phillies bounced back with after losing the series opener against the Giants. We will see if this is just the middle game of the Brave series where you find your way to a win and then you lose and then lose and then lose again, or if this is a consistent build for more positive play for the Phillies. They certainly have looked better at home than they did on the road trip. There's another level that they need to get to. We will take the little victories as they come right now with this Philadelphia Phillies baseball team. And part of the reason we're going to take the little victories as they come, or we should at least, and that includes all of the fan base, even the people who are negative on this team at points, is because of a couple things that Tim Kurkjian, who of course covers baseball for ESPN, said to us this morning on the radio that I want to share with you that I think y'all really, really need to hear when it comes to where this baseball team is and where this baseball team is going. So we will talk about my conversation with one of the great baseball minds on the planet coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Prize Picks first, though, because basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up. There's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports. So if you want to do a basketball playoff player and a hockey playoff player, now hockey's not quite to the playoffs yet, but if you wanted to do that when that time rolls around with Prize Picks, you can absolutely do that. It's the easiest interface to use. It takes a minute tops to put together your lineup that you want to do, and you've got a chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So when I'm looking at this week, well, I really, really like what's going on in the NBA playoffs. For the normal scores, they've stepped up. Last night, you saw Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler go off for the Golden State Warriors. And now some of the teams that lost, well, you're going to see them in the second round of the play-in games in a little bit. You're also going to see the lower level play-in games. Those lower level play-in games, these teams are, here's kind of the reality of it, right? They are fighting for their lives, but they're also trying to just get the most out of what they can with their last minutes of basketball because they're going to get smoked by the 1 seed, whoever ends up in the 8 seed. So that means the big time players, they're going to look to pour it in. They're going to look to score as much as they can. Doesn't necessarily mean lockdown defense. So look at some of the big players in teams that lost or teams that are playing for the first time. The stars, they show up in the postseason. That's who you want to take the more than on points. And you can do a whole bunch of stuff on Prize Picks as well. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. So I had a nice conversation. I had the opportunity to, along with Andrew Salchunas and John Kincaid of Kincaid and Salchunas this morning on 97.5, the Fanatics morning show. We talked with Tim Kurkjian, and it's always great to hear from Tim. Not only is he just such a likable guy in general, but he's such a knowledgeable baseball mind. And there were a lot of questions that we had the opportunity to pose to Tim Kurkjian. But first and foremost, we asked him about the performance of the Phillies so far. And he made it an absolute point to bring up that before the season, he thought the Dodgers were the best team in baseball, and he thought the Phillies were the second best team in baseball. And he said to this point in the season, nothing that he has seen from either of these teams has changed those narratives. He still believes in the overall talent level of the Philadelphia Phillies. He thinks they're really, really good. And that should remind folks, he's not a Phillies reporter. He's not a Phillies podcaster. He's not on the broadcast for the game where they're trying to get you intrigued in what's happening with the team. No, he's just an unbiased third party with a heck of a lot of knowledge, and he really likes this Phillies team to the point where, let me just read you this full quote from Tim Kurkjian with us this morning. Talking about the Phillies, he said, "This is a really good team. They just haven't played really well so far, and they're still 10-7 and right there. So you have to take that. If I were a Phillies fan, I'd be feeling really good about things right now." He went on to talk about Alec Boehm struggling. Trey Turner hasn't really got it going yet. Brandon Marsh obviously is playing terribly, and he believes those things are going to change, and this is going to be a really good offensive team really soon, and the starting pitching is going to match up with just about anyone in baseball. But again, I want you to hear this part of the quote again from Tim Kurkjian, not Connor Thomas, not Tom McCarthy or John Kruk or Ruben Amaro or anyone on the broadcast or anyone getting paid by the Phillies. No. Tim Kurkjian says, if I were a Phillies fan, I'd be feeling really good about things right now. We just got to keep that in mind for everybody freaking out saying this is the same team. These guys aren't good. They can't get it done when it counts. They're not going to hit. The bullpen stinks. All of this stuff. You're reacting in the moment, and that's okay. That's what we do over 162 games is we react in the moment. But in the back of your mind, keep that there, that this is a really, really good baseball team. He also had a lot of great things to say about the rotation, because trying to figure out how the rotation is going to work as Ranger Suarez gets ready to work his way back into the mix. Kurkjian said they have 5 high-end quality starting pitchers, and not too many teams have that. Zach Wheeler is great. He's not good. He's great. And he's durable. Aaron Nola is a really good starting pitcher. And the start to the season is going to change. Christopher Sanchez is ridiculously good when he's right. And then you have Jesus Luzardo into the mix and getting Ranger Suarez back. So you got a great rotation. You got an offense that's going to be really good really soon, according to Tim Kurkjian. He really likes where the Phillies are at. That's just a everybody take a deep breath type of quote. Now, something that was interesting is a lot of people are clamoring for the call-up of Justin Crawford right now, the Phillies' top outfield prospect with the struggles in center field. Rojas, not much better than Marsh in his opportunity earlier in the series against the Giants. People were a little curious why Brandon Marsh is back out in the field for Game 2 of the series after they were saying they were going to get him a couple of days off. Ross stunk too. Now, do either of these guys stink as baseball players? I'd like to say no. Now, are they league average guys? I think Marsh is a league average guy when he's at his best. I think Rojas is a guy that he may be slightly below league average, but you're looking at a guy with some major league above league average skill sets in his defense and his speed. So you can win for the time being with these guys, but some people want to see the shiny new toy, the highly touted prospect, Justin Crawford, come up. So we talked to Tim about that. And he brought up that organizational philosophies are different on individual players. So we may not know how the Phillies think about Justin Crawford's readiness to come to the major league level. It's not just, hey, he's a great prospect, he's hitting well in the minors, bring him up. Or we have an issue with this position, bring him up. You got to evaluate the makeup of the player. And I'm not questioning any of this about Justin Crawford. I'm just saying it's not as simple. And that's what Tim Kurkjian was bringing up as well. It's not as simple as just, hey, young, good player at this position, put him at the major league level. You may not want to do that because you don't know if the kid's mentally ready. And that's something that, frankly, unless you know Justin Crawford personally, you're not able to evaluate as a fan. I haven't talked to the guy. I'm not able to evaluate it. And I know a good amount about what's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies and the organization. We don't know. Remember, Jackson Holliday came up for the Orioles last year. He was like the next best thing since sliced bread. And he comes up, and he struggled mightily, and then he went back down. Now, I'm not saying Jackson Holliday is a bad baseball player, and I'm also saying I'm not going to say Justin Crawford guaranteed to struggle because Jackson Holliday did. I'm just saying great prospect doesn't equal great debut. Great debut doesn't equal great career. Just like bad debut doesn't equal bad career. There's more at work, especially this early in the season, than just saying, oh, call him up. You have to have patience. You have to be careful with demanding young players coming up because you worry about maybe poisoning the well. They struggle at the major league level. Now they're experiencing adversity. Now they've got to bounce back instead of being called up at a time where maybe they were more ready. And the other thing, too, is the service time with Justin Crawford, right? The Phillies may be looking to manipulate the service time. This is not totally fair to the player because if they're ready, they should come up, right? But there are going to be points in the future where if the Phillies call up Justin Crawford and they lose a year of team control because they call him up early enough that he gets the major league service time he needs, you're then paying him a major contract if he's good, which we all hope he is, a year earlier. And that year, it could be a year where you need something significant to add to this team. And you could be hamstrung by it all because you called up a young player for a winning team in April. Like it doesn't make sense to do right now. Will the Phillies be dead by the end of April, right? Like, will they be out of postseason contention or be screwed in the division? Like, even if things go horribly, horribly wrong for this team, which they're not going to, they're not going to be out of contention, right? You have time to weather the storm of the center field position. And also, you have a roster that should be able to cover these guys. Now, when an Alec Boehm is slumping, when a JT Realmuto is slumping, when like a Bryson Stott is slumping, all of that with a hole in center field, it becomes harder to win games. But those other guys I mentioned have track records of showing you they can do this at the major league level. When you actually evaluate it, you have to have a little bit of patience to put the Phillies in the best possible situation and to possibly put Justin Crawford into a more advantageous situation for when he does eventually come up, which I imagine will be sometime this year with the struggles in center field, but could be short-lived. And that's something that we have to account for. You got to look at this from all perspectives, not just I'm tired of watching Yohan Rojas and Brandon Marsh on my TV screen, so I would like to see something different. It is not that simple. There are nuances that you have to reason with when you look at the center field position. And you also have to ask yourself how dire of a situation this is. Right now, this is not it. Like, if you need to call up somebody currently, you're like, you got a scratch on your finger, right? And it's bleeding a little bit. And you're like, I'm going to die if I do not get a Band-Aid in the next 2 seconds. That's not how it works. All right. Would you like to have it? Sure. But take your time. You're going to be all right. You got other things to focus on right now. Got to win some baseball games. Then, as the season progresses, if this is a remaining issue, which I believe it will be, like, I don't think this is getting better. I just think the Phils can survive it for a little bit. Then you go ahead and you figure out the proper way to treat your ailments. That's kind of where we're at. So, great insight from Tim Kurkjian. Great advice for Phillies fans. Stuff that I wanted to share with you on the podcast about just like they're okay. This is not just me saying they're fine and everybody mad at me in the comments because you think I'm a Phillies apologist, which I get on the YouTube chat for 97.5 The Fanatic, and occasionally I see in the comments here. I'm telling you what Tim Kurkjian's telling you. You can disagree with me, but don't you dare disagree with Tim Kurkjian, one of the nicest men in sports. Now, you can disagree if you want to, but I don't think you should. This is a good team. We get caught up in the day-to-day of it. Everybody does. I do. They're just fine, and they've had a fine start to the year. We just need to get them hitting a little bit more, the Phillies. And we saw evidence of that last night with some hard contact from the entire lineup, or most of the entire lineup, and especially from a couple guys who have been struggling. So can they turn that into not just one win, but 2 wins? Well, tonight, it's going to be very interesting what they do with the lineup and how they try and continue their winning ways. We'll talk about Game 3 with the Giants coming up as we wrap up today's episode. And maybe you want to go to Game 3 of Phillies Giants tonight, Citizens Bank Park. It's a little bit cold, right? So what you might think is, I don't know yet if I want to go. I might want to see how the weather's going. Well, I've got the perfect place for you to get the tickets if you decide last minute. It's our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets even easier than ever, I should say. Having trouble reading today. My allergies are killing me. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you could score an incredible deal. If you have a spontaneous game night moment where you're like sitting at the bar with your buddies, it's 5 o'clock. Like, man, we're not that far from the ballpark. Maybe we'll go down. Get your tickets off Game Time. They have the Game Time Picks feature, which shows you only the best deals. And it's not just baseball games. It's sports, comedy, concerts, theater, like everything. Maybe your playoff team, maybe your basketball team is not the Sixers and you want to go to one of their playoff games they're in. Hockey team, same thing. You can do it with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, make sure you use code LOCKEDONMLB because that'll get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. Tonight, On the mound, you have Robbie Ray facing off against Aaron Nola. The Phils looking for a chance to make it 2 in a row. The Giants looking for a chance to bounce back. And you know what's funny about having Aaron Nola on the mound? He's actually not been bad this year. He really hasn't. His first start of the year in Washington was not ideal, right? He wasn't really good in that. That sucked to see. Okay, you kind of live with that one with Aaron Nola because that's what you expect. And then he loses again, but he pitched better in game 2 of his season. And then in game 3 of his season, pitched really well, I thought, but just didn't get the run support. Okay, so you got to have good Aaron Nola and run support behind him. And that's a lot of pitchers in baseball. But I think that he's starting to settle into the season a little bit more. Hopefully tonight, it will be a night where the Phillies can get him, I don't know, 3, 4 runs, maybe 5. Let's get nuts, right? Score a little bit and make him a little bit more comfortable on the mound. And then you can live in a situation where Aaron Nola can find his first victory of the year. I mean, the ERA at 5.51 is not good, but it's not astronomical, especially considering where we're at in the season. He's got to get the home run numbers down as always, but I think he's been okay. Now, the guy the Phillies are facing, Robbie Ray, has had a nice start to the year. He's 3-0. He's got a 2.93 ERA. In 15 and a third innings pitched, he's only struck out 13, and he's walked 10. So you can be very selective against Robbie Ray. And the Phillies have been good about that this year. So that's the key. You want to be cautious at the plate. Don't let him get you out. One of those crafty lefties that is going to be tough against left-handed hitters. Patience is going to be a thing of virtue, as it always is, in tonight's ballgame. So the Phils don't come out of your shoes. Hard contact sometimes leads to you being a little bit more free swinging because you believe the hard contact is going to continue. Not always the case. If the Phils are able to walk 4, 5 times, 6 times in this game, you're going to feel a lot better about their chances to win it against a pitcher like Robbie Ray. So we will see how selective they are at the dish, and we'll also see who's given the opportunity to be selective because now you got a weird lineup thing going on. You got a lefty on the mound. So do you go with the Trey Turner leadoff lineup? You've been going with Bryson Stott occasionally. Now, a tough lefty, you're probably not going to have Bryson Stott in a leadoff spot. But can you drop a guy that's been having success, because Bryson Stott's been solid so far in the leadoff spot, down to 7th, 8th, or 9th in the order? That is a big, big drop if Bryson Stott is not batting leadoff tonight. If he is, okay, well, then is Brandon Marsh going to play again? Because Brandon Marsh made some good contact yesterday. He's still, even when he's going good, is not good against lefties, or hasn't been at least in his major league career. Do you go with Rojas? I would go with Yohan Rojas back out in center field, which makes it feel like they're platooning again in center. And my answer to that comment would be, yeah, they pretty much are, and they kind of have to because neither of those guys has really taken control of the position. Both are issues at the plate right now in Rojas and Marsh. But I would go with Rojas out there in center to go righty on lefty. Kepler in left field. Another guy that you've seen, like maybe Edmundo Sosa, goes out there to get you another righty bat. I don't think so. Kepler's been swinging the bat pretty well lately. Had another nice couple of at-bats last night. I like what Max Kepler started to do at the dish. I'm not taking him out of the lineup while he's on a bit of a roll like this. I don't want him to lose that. So I'm not playing Sosa in left field. Also, he's not really a true steady left fielder yet. He made a really, really nice play and a really, really bad play in his first start in left field this year. Though I do wonder if you look at getting Sosa in the lineup for a guy like Bryson Stott. That way, you can go with the Turner leadoff lineup. You don't have to drop Stott significantly and hurt his confidence. You can just say, hey, lefty, give you a day, get some rest. We're in the middle of a stretch of 16 straight games. You could probably use it. Or maybe Edmundo Sosa gets in the lineup for Trey Turner or Alec Boehm, and you just use the whole, well, rest is something that we're going to need in this stretch of the season type of argument when it comes to those guys. So the lineup will be very, very interesting tonight to see who's in it and who's not. If the Phillies stick with Brandon Marsh against a lefty, which I can't imagine them doing, that would be a shock to me. And then we will see how it's created. But either way, the key is going to be take advantage of Robbie Ray's mistakes. And also, Jesus Luzardo, very interestingly, in last night's start, his strikeout stuff wasn't really working. I don't know if that was the wind. I don't know if that was the cold. I don't know if that was the team, because the Giants strike out a lot, but they haven't really much in this series. I wonder if Aaron Nola is going to be a pitch to contact guy tonight, or if you can get a big strikeout game against this Giants team, because the numbers so far this season would suggest they have one in them this series. I don't know, though. I haven't seen it yet. So those are the things to focus on in tonight's game. We will see what Rob Thompson does with his lineup, and we will see if the Phillies can find a way to make it 2 wins in a row. That's called a winning streak. It has happened before. It will happen again, or it can happen again. We will see if the Phillies make that a will happen in tonight's contest. But you see how much more fun the world is when the Phillies win games. Like, everything just feels immediately better. Those worries feel like less concerning worries. That's it. You're just in a bad stretch. We will see if the Phillies can fully come out of it with another win tonight, and then finishing off the series strong on Thursday. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out and helps you out to get more of the exciting content we put together for you here on Locked On Phillies. So I appreciate that. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.